Today's episode is brought to you by Alien Coffee Bean, bringing you kindness and coffee.
The guy called in and said there's a UFO over top of my car.
And they're saying, teach us how to enslave the humans.
They're asking the right one.
They are. If you like today's content, please like, subscribe, comment down below. And of course, you can find the video interview on youtube.com/paranormalpop. All right, welcome to this edition of Coffee and UFOs 2022. It's been a long break. Welcome back. I am very happy to say that my Coffee and UFO guest today is Race Hobbs, the program director of KUNX. Race Hobbs, welcome to Coffee and UFOs.
Thanks for having me, Alan. It's
Cheers,
good to
brother.
see you.
We were talking earlier, you're drinking tea. I'm drinking coffee as usual.
I'm going to tell you, this thing was full, and I've just been going at it, man. I mean, it's been one of those Saturday mornings.
So but you're from the South. So when you say you're drinking tea, that's not like when you're talking to somebody from England. That's a whole different thing. Yeah.
No, they drink the tea that's good for you, probably. This is Southern sweet tea, and it's not for diabetics.
But it makes it feel good.
Happy New Year, brother. It's good to see you.
Happy New Year. You too. Yeah, thanks for doing this. This is the first Coffee and UFOs in many months. Yeah, and I just want to share with everybody that Paranormal Now, the other podcast, will be syndicated on your new network, KUNX.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you back on the air, and I know all of your fans and followers are going to be glad for it too.
Oh, I'm stoked. I'm honored. And obviously you gave me the opportunity originally to be on KGRA. So, you know, that is something that I hold very dear in my heart. So I always appreciate that. So really quick, let's get to the questions because this is a short form podcast. So has Race Hobbs ever seen a UFO?
By definition, I have. Yeah, I have. Probably. Now, let me focus here. 1, 2, maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 4 objects that I saw that I couldn't tell you what they were.
Unidentified flying objects.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let me be clear, I've never seen a structured craft. And I say structured because it would have to be close enough for me to be able to see its definition that it was like definitely manufactured and built and created, to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have to be doing things that weren't conventional to what we would normally see flying in our atmosphere. I've never seen one of those ones. No, I've never seen a UFO that literally just kind of, like a Phoenix Lights type situation where, something like that is undeniably, bizarre, let's say, something that's just way out of the ordinary, something you never see before or since.
Right.
I've never had that. I've seen a couple of lights in the sky that were, very different. And I've seen an object in the light of day on 4th of July floating in my pool. And I was looking up, and my chief investigator at the time, that when I had my section in MUFON, was with us, and we saw. I couldn't get this thing in the viewfinder. I tried. My daughter ran and got my camera, and back then, the little window that pops out the side, the little Sony. And I'm you guys, if you saw that video, it would be very entertaining to say the least, because I just sat there and cussed the whole time because I couldn't. But what it was essentially was, it looked like a star in the daylight, but it was obviously, and the, depth of field, everybody gets that, you know what I mean? If you don't have anything behind it, or, it's hard to tell, but this thing definitely seemed inside, our atmosphere. It seemed like it was maybe 1,000 feet above me, if that, but it could have been more, could have been less. I don't know, but was
this daytime or nighttime?
It was daytime. It was in the bright of day. It was a star. And I was like, man, that's awful bright to be sitting right there, because there was not a cloud in the sky. And all of a sudden it switched off. It was gone. I mean, like literally just blinked off. And I was like, what the? And then my friend Royce was like, what's going on? And I was like, Royce, did you see that? Did you see that? And he was like, what? And I said, there was a star like light up there. And then all of a sudden it was gone. And he goes, where? And I was like, just right up there. And then boom, it was back on. And he was like, I see it. I see it. And so we started looking at this thing, like really looking at it. And I did this right here. I cupped my fingers, my fingers around like this,
Mm-hmm.
and just made some little flash light deflectors, put
Yeah,
them
yeah,
over my eyes.
sure. Mm-hmm.
And,
To remove
and
the glare.
it did, and it knocked it out. And I could, once I focused and trained in on it,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 seconds clicked off, and then it blinked off again, but it didn't blink off. This time I could see that it was like a round orb. It was round. And one side of it, half of it was like chrome, and the other half was like flat black. So, and it was rotating real slow. And so the sunlight was coming out of the west, and it was probably, I want to say 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of summer. So it was still up there pretty good. Didn't get dark and down below the horizon until like 8 o'clock, 8:30. So I could clearly see it was like dull and on one side and chrome on the other. So it was just simply reflecting the sun that made it look like a star. But
When
it was
you said it disappeared, like what happened? It just like blinked out of existence, or
well, the first time that I saw it, it disappeared because I couldn't, the overexposure in my eyes, I couldn't see that it was still sitting there. I couldn't see it. But when I kind of cupped my fingers like this and I put them up against my face and I used the inside fingers to kind of open my eyes a little more because I'd been in the pool and chlorine irritation, that kind of thing.
yeah, get
So
the kind of foggy kind of effect.
and when it came back on and I got focused on it again, and I actually was locked in on it then, and I could see it better.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend Royce confirmed that he saw the same thing. It was and then sometime later, I found images of these of like a mylar balloon, a perfect round mylar balloon in a blimp hanger.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing was huge. It was probably, I want to say 10, 15 stories tall or something. I mean, it was big. And it had these machines with this tube, and they were pumping air into it or gas into it or whatever. But it was probably something like that. And then, but really the most intriguing UFO sighting that I ever had was multiple objects in the night sky in the same backyard. My daughter came and got me, and she said, Dad, her and her friends were in the pool. She came and got me. She said, there's red lights out here. You got to come down. I said, honey, they're probably just the lights on the radio tower. Yep. There's a radio tower in our backyard that has 7 of them. Boom, 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 boom. And we've done so many sky watches and night watches and stuff out there. So that's kind of one of the markers that I taught the kids and the wife and friends to use when you're, looking at objects up there. But they weren't this. I went out, there was a red light, reddish orange, and then another reddish orange one to my right. And they were both moving equidistant apart, and they were moving same speed. Mm-hmm. And then another one appeared from the side of my house. So I walked out into the yard, far out into the back of the yard. And as I went, there was another one and another one, and another one. There were 7 of them that I could see. In the end, it turned out to be 9 of them. They were all moving equidistant apart, same speed. They were not attached to one thing. I could see through them, unless it was some kind of cloak or something. But I could see as they were passing. I could see that tower, Alan. I could see that radio tower clearly in that mountain back behind it. But they were moving in an arc, like a kind of a semicircle, kind of. You know what I mean?
It couldn't be solar flares.
I thought they were Chinese lanterns, but they weren't. They were close enough that I could see they weren't flickering.
Okay.
They were just a constant orangish, reddish light that was constant.
Hmm.
And like I say, you probably could have held up a micrometer and they would have been perfect distance apart from each other as they were coming by this way. As they started to make that arc and turn off into the horizon, you really couldn't tell.
Yeah.
But there's a big array of power lines that run through just beyond my back property back here.
Yeah.
And I mean, they run clear off into Oklahoma and way off into Arkansas, three big mains. And, the kind with the big towers that hold them up. And as I was watching that last light, all of a sudden something came out of the corner of my eye way over here. And I looked, and all I can say, it looked like it was about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, like a 1972 Volkswagen Beetle, like one of them old ones. It was like that size, and it was metallic, and it was dark, and it was like an orb shape to it. And the bottom looked like it was glass with some sort of a green light up inside of it. And the light that was coming out of that glass bottom, or the clear bottom, let's
Hmm.
say, it was dim. It wasn't super bright at all. It was really dim. Had I not been looking that way, we could have been out there barbecuing. This thing would have went right by. We'd have never saw it in the dark.
Wow.
We'd have never saw it. I just happened to be looking up there, and this thing went right over I want to say it was 40 to 60 feet above those power lines, going right down those power lines. Perfect. Okay. And there are helicopters with guys literally sitting out of them, out of the window on the side, out of the door on the side of the helicopter. The helicopters, if the lines go this way, the helicopter's coming right at
Right.
it, but it's turned sideways, and he's sitting here, and they're expecting those lines, and they fly 10 feet over them.
Hmm.
And I've seen stuff fly over those power lines before at a close range. So I was able to better judge, kind of how far above them it was. That thing, I can't explain what that was. It
Yeah.
was definitely a physical object.
Hmm.
It definitely had that light in it, but it didn't have any wings. It didn't make a sound. And after I'm trying to, sort of absorb what I've just seen, that green thing, that object over the power lines, I'm looking.
Yeah.
I look back, and all those red lights are gone. I don't know. My memory, I don't even know how long that took, because I was like, what in the hell is going on out here? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was really just that bizarre. No noise whatsoever, no sound, no crickets, no dogs barking, just nothing. Just, and it was probably just me canceling all that out and just hyper focused on, trying to figure out what that was I just saw. And, then there was the original sighting, Alan, where, I was on the radio station overnight, and the guy called in and said, there's a UFO over top of my car. You could see it out the back of your station if you go out there. I went out there, looked, and sure enough, I saw the light. And it was a bright, bright light. Like I've always sort of described it as a welding light. And
Hmm.
I'm up on a plateau, and I could see, and it was shining on the tree canopy below it, on the ground below. That was amazing to see that. That was the summer of 1990. That's when the whole UFO thing started for me.
Oh, and that was a hot period as far as trending coverage of Roswell becoming part of the mainstream coverage. I mean, you had all kinds of news stations talking about it. You had documentaries and specials, sightings started up in the early '90s. I mean, that period from like the late '80s to mid '90s was a really exciting time.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. That's true. It was, I didn't have any trouble, when I went to look, finding interested parties and
Sure.
information, and
Oh, yeah.
people who had stories and willing to share them.
Yes, and that was, you know, even though there was the kind of Whitley Strieber tease about the anal probing and that sort of thing, even despite that, I mean, you still had, talk show hosts like Oprah and what's his name? Was it Geraldo? I forget.
Geraldo.
Geraldo. Maybe not Geraldo is the best example, but you had some talk show hosts that did kind of take it seriously and brought abductees and people onto their programs, which that was mainstream television then. I mean, and the funny thing is now with the seemingly
And Larry King, Alan.
Larry King, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the odd thing is that now you see less of that, but the topic of UFOs is more accepted. But you don't see that tapping into the other more speculative side of it like we did in the 90s. You didn't have abductees on your program. You didn't, the more fantastical aspects of the phenomena aren't what we're seeing in the news right now. It's the more dry UAP, what has the military scene that's accepted. But I think we've lost some ground actually as far as general coverage.
That was a bit of a concern for some of the veterans in this subject that I know.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in this over 30 years, man, and by no means am I claiming to have seen it all, because that's impossible.
Yeah.
I've come to, and yeah, there are things that are impossible, and that's one of them. But with that said, the concern was that we have something that is very anomalous, and we have a government who seems to be loosening the reins on it.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is those of us who've been at it long enough know that's never going to happen. And if it does, there's a purpose behind it. They're never going to let go of the technology and the true value of anything they know, if they know anything. Because I've come to the conclusion, in my own personal opinion, that whatever this reality is and whatever this truth is doesn't want to come out in the light of day for whatever reason. And for whatever that reason is the question that I'm asking. Not that they're there, or if they're real, or if abductions are real, or crop circles are real, or implants are real, or any of that. I want to know why they don't want to show themselves. You've got one camp that says they're evil and they're doing evil works. You got another camp that says they're here to save us all, but they can't intervene with us, which to me makes no sense. No. If you're gonna interfere, interfere. If you're gonna, if you're not wanting to like advance our technology or interfere with our development, our natural development and everything, then leave, pack up and go.
Right. Yeah.
And let us do what we're doing. You know what I mean? Let us undo ourselves or save ourselves or whatever. But the Earth's going to be here long after we're gone.
I would say you do not buy the exception in that regard, that perhaps they're afraid to share their information with us because they're afraid that we're going to turn it back loose on them and their lives. Like they're preserving their own. No? Okay.
No, I mean, it makes no sense. If they are that advanced, then they're going to know we don't need to be messed with. We don't need to be told. We don't need to be gifted anything. These people are primitive. Stanton Friedman used to put it very clearly. We're the unhinged tribe in the neighborhood. You know what I mean? So if they really care about us, then they should just make themselves known and let us know that, for better or for worse, the reality of what's going on. But the truth is, we don't need them. We know, Alan.
We know because we've taken the time to look into it.
Well, regardless of aliens and UFOs and visitations and abductions and all this, throw all that to the side. Human beings know what they're doing to the oceans, to the trash, the environment, the gases. We know what's going on. The problem is, as long as we keep our little trinkets and keep our minds busy, we don't care.
Yeah.
That's, That's the ultimate game.
Yeah,
Is
it's like
switching everybody off, and it's never going to happen, in my opinion. It's going to take something, very. I hate to say it, but catastrophic. There's going to
it,
be have to. It's going to have to be something catastrophic that's going to change things for the better, and I mean that's going to collectively change the whole scope of humanity's thinking
yep.
about who we actually are and where we came from and the reality of our world that we came from and where it's going.
Yeah, but that happens to humans, on a smaller scale often, right? Like somebody will maybe lose somebody or have some sort of life altering traumatic experience, or someone who has an experience with an animal that is like kind hearted to them for some reason, and all of a sudden just click. All of a sudden they're animal lovers, and that's their mission in life. But I think the problem with humans is, and that's why we have systems of law, is because we have to self regulate because there's always going to be breakaways. Like even if collectively as society we're like we want to be good people, there's always going to be people who go astray for whatever reason. And so I kind of feel like our approach towards moving into outer space is a gamble because you know and so if you're a species looking at us, like do you come down and try to help regulate with us alongside us because that some of us are going to go rogue. Like I don't see us evolving is what I'm saying, like on like a primal physical level, like
Yeah,
at least not for a long time,
right, right.
where we don't have to self-regulate.
I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you on that 100%. The fact remains is if we were left to figure this out on our own, it would be much easier, I think. But we have governments that are in our way.
Yeah.
We have government controls and all kinds of rules and regulations put upon us that prevent us from being able to do what we know works best for us.
Mm.
I mean, you and I were just talking a few moments ago about someone who got in trouble for collecting rainwater, filtering it, and drinking it.
It's crazy.
How in the world could that be? I felt that way about the seatbelt law. I'm all for laws. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
humans without rules wouldn't get very far. I mean, I'm not saying that we need to be totally untethered
Of course, of course.
to rules and regulations.
But a
But,
car isn't part of nature. Water is like
well,
the very
what I'm
basic of our
saying is
existence.
rules made to protect the innocent, made to protect the innocent bystander or the innocent person on the sidewalk or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A body flying out of a crashing car and hitting and killing someone, I don't think has ever happened in history. So, unless my cadaver leaving a crashing vehicle and injuring someone, innocent bystander or something,
Yep.
why else would you have to make me harness my body into a moving vehicle?
Yep.
Just because you say it's statistically
Better
safer for me, that's my choice to make. See, rules should be made that
to
protect
protect other people.
yeah,
I get that. Yeah.
discharging guns in city limits and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
could get shot inadvertently, so it makes sense. But a seatbelt law doesn't, and collecting rainwater and filtering it's the same thing. It's overregulation,
Yep.
and we are suffering terribly from that today. But
Yeah.
when it comes to
But I
government,
see that in extraterrestrials. I see that's a potential future that we have to figure out how to manage.
you're probably right.
You know.
My biggest concern is we're all wrapping a human experience around something that's very non-human,
Yeah.
and that is the ultimate enigma, the confusive enigma that just it's hard to wade through. You're just mired up to the throat in it because in this day and age, everybody has an opinion and everybody has a sort of a vision on how they see these things,
Right.
and until people figure out that they're not the center of everyone else's universe, that you just say your piece and add it to the puzzle, and
Mhm.
you know eventually someone's going to find where it fits. You can't just, you know by God, matter of fact, this and that. And, we all have to work together. And we could learn a lot. You're talking about becoming a dog lover. I just
Mhm.
watched a video a little while ago, man, of a German Shepherd sitting next to a little kid on a step, and they were filming from behind, I guess, like on a doorbell camera.
Yeah.
And the little dog put his arm up on the back of the little kid, and the little kid leaned over and hugged it. It was just
Oh
the
man.
most
Yeah.
adorable uh, a video capture. And
Yeah.
it just reminded me of just how wonderful this world that we come from, that gave us life, is,
Yeah.
and how we need to cherish it. Um,
Well,
that
just
should
as
be
you were telling that story, my cat came rubbing up here. I think she was like, "Dogs, what's going on here?"
What about
What
cats?
about cats?
I
So,
actually saw a video about cats the other day where two of them were eating out of the same bowl, and they
mhm.
would push it. They would eat, and they would push it to the other cat, and the other cat would eat some out of it and push it back over to the other cat. My wife is a huge cat lover. I'm a dog
Yeah.
guy. My wife is a dog and cat lover. She
Have you
does
seen that
all.
comic strip where it shows aliens, right? And they're talking to this cat just sitting up at looking up at them, and they're saying, "Teach us how to enslave the humans."
They're asking the right
They
one
are
too.
asking the right ones.
They're asking the right creature on earth for sure.
But you know what, though? Back to some of your earlier
Yeah.
comments. Why do you think it is that some people like yourself or others have seen more than one UFO, and then there's others like myself who saw one a long time ago and have never, well, of course I lived in a city, so I didn't have as much sky advantage as others, but people can go a whole lifetime without seeing UFO, and
Yeah.
others see five.
Yeah. Well, I was always in that category. I was always the guy that, I never saw an alien ship. I'll say I saw a UFO by definition, but I'm not, I don't know that anything that I saw wasn't made right here on Earth by
Yeah.
human beings. It very well could have been, including that first one that looked like a welder's light. That guy told me what he saw above his vehicle looked like a submarine, like a
Hmm.
black cigar with a huge light in the front of it.
Yeah.
And it was quiet, silent, and floating right over him. I could have been some sort of lighter than air dirigible or something. You know what I mean? With
It
some
could, yeah.
kind of super bright light on the front. But you know, it's there are those who believe that uh that I guess they're special. You know what I mean? They're in a special kind of a club, that, because honestly, man, these things are rare. When I was a kid, when I was young, I heard my mom and dad talking about this stuff, and
Hmm.
family and friends that come to visit, and conversations in, where the adults are in the room in the front and we're playing in the kitchen, coloring
Hmm.
at the table or whatever, and you hear them and they're talking about things, right? And so I had it in my head, then of course I was born in the space race, 1968. I was right there. I was a year old. I remember my dad holding me in his arms in our driveway in like 1973, 74. One of my earliest memories of him pointing at the moon and telling me there was men on the moon tonight. So and to a child, everything they see is real somewhere. And for me, Star Trek was real,
Yeah.
aliens were real.
Hmm.
You know, there was never for me, there was never any epiphany. It was just like a a belief that I had from whenever I can first remember memories, and
Yeah.
they were awakened in 1990, the summer of 1990. So when I saw that thing, that and it didn't boom off into space or do anything crazy, it just floated away. And then I realized I was running a radio station, and I ran in and there was dead air. The song had ended and it was just static. So I had to throw another song in real quick, pick up the
that,
phone, and tell him, I saw it. I saw it. You know what I mean? What was that
yeah.
thing?
Yeah.
And
That's a scene right from a movie.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was one of those memories that I pray I never forget. I mean, it's still just as clear as the in my memory as the night that it happened.
Yeah.
But again, I really wish I could be one of those ones who saw something that you know that is out of this world. That is truly an alien spacecraft. That I just Travis Walton. You see a disc hovering in the trees like that, and oh my gosh, that's
Curiosity. Yeah.
that I don't think that's us. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't think in 75. You know what I mean? Like or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. We were driving on the highway once, and the weird thing is my memory of this. I'm not saying we had an abduction experience or anything, but we were driving down the highway, and I saw something kind of hovering. It looked like in the ahead, and we're going kind of fast. So by the time I could get my eyes on it, it was coming up to my left. I was driving, and I just look up, and it was like a triangle shape, but I'm pretty sure it was one of ours. Like, it just looked human made. It was like, it looked like a Harrier jet or something that was hovering. But it was so fast. And like, I was having that thought in my mind, like, do I grab my phone? But I'm driving, so I got to keep my eyes on the road. So I was having that inner conflict of, look, how long can I look, and how long do I have to grab my phone and keep an eye on the road and try to record this thing? Like, there was no way I was going to do it. So and then I thought, should I pull over? But there was cars on my right going by, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to go, just to. But the thing is that it kind of faded from my memory and then popped back into my memory. And this was only like within a couple of years ago this happened. And then I couldn't remember what highway we were on. I couldn't remember exactly where we were coming from. And my wife didn't recall it
Huh.
because she was in the passenger. So she didn't see what I saw. It was just me. And it was just one of those weird things. It's like my memory got really foggy regarding this event. And then, so now what I do is I literally practice on my phone how quickly I can open up the camera app. Because, how many stories do we have where someone's like, I saw something, their eyes got fixed on it and they didn't react quick enough to grab their camera and start
It's just
shooting.
fast for me. Tap tap. My camera's up. That quick. Just that fast. 2 taps on the power button and the camera's there.
See, I wonder if I can do that on an iPhone setting because we don't
I
have
don't know.
that. Yeah. Yeah, here we have to press hold that camera. I don't know if you can see it. Hold
See
that
that?
camera button down. Yeah.
Tap tap. And
Yep.
then the camera comes right up.
That's a
That
great
fast.
feature. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anybody listening knows how to do that on an iPhone, please let me know.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure they will too. That's a great thing. One of the great things about all this technology.
I imagine like a montage for MUFON having like training, where the MUFON investigators to reach down like they're grabbing a gun, pull up their
Man, I
phone.
can't,
And,
I can't tell you how many, when my tour with MUFON, the years I
Mhm.
was there, I drive for 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 hours, and I knock on the door. I start an investigation, and they literally told me I had a camera around my neck. I had a camera in my hand, and I never once thought to use it. They see these things, man, and they are so stricken
Yeah.
by what they see that that's like I was telling you earlier about how there was no crickets. There were no, a lot of times you hear people say the sound was just gone. Well, a lot of times when you're hyper focused on something, that's exactly what happens. You don't your memory is not logging in. Um, your defensive mechanism is switched off because I attribute that to your defenses. You're hyper aware to something and it takes everything you have to focus in on that one thing
Yes. Yeah.
that it literally is shutting off all of your other sense, smell, everything,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because of that focus that you know it's the same way that like people in crashes lift cars off of people and their hip is broken
Mm-hmm.
or their arms are broken and somehow these people still do these miraculous things.
Yeah.
The body is amazing, man. It's unmatched. There ain't no computer, there's no phone, there's nothing on this earth
Like it.
that will ever be as bad as a human body,
Yeah.
human mind. Never will be. We
Yeah.
are special things, man.
And then add some coffee and UFOs to that, and you're in ecstasy, man.
That's it. It's such an honor to be on this little program. I've
Thanks,
always
man. I
loved it.
appreciate it.
You know,
Yeah.
next time I promise I'll have coffee here for
Yeah.
sure.
So before we go, tell us what's going on with UNX.
The UNX Network,
Mm-hmm.
unxnetwork.com. Everybody go check out the little website. We're just getting started. We got kicked off on Halloween night last year
Mm-hmm.
with the radio platform. We're doing a little TV streaming, video streaming stuff, and we're bringing more of that this year. But mainly my whole thing is radio. And Margie K has done radio. The owner of the network, Margie, is the owner and CEO. She comes from a radio and music background, so.
Yeah.
we,
Margie's great.
we primarily focus on the radio and then everything else. But with UNX, we have our own magazine. We have Lee Spiegel as our senior managing editor now. We're literally about to drop our first edition for 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be Lee Spiegel's first feature article that he's written since he left Huffington Post several years ago.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yep. I actually got Lee Spiegel back on the air when we were over at KGRA after 45, 46 years. He's at WNBC in New York.
WNBC.
That's right.
For all the Howard Stern fans out there.
That's it. And then now we've got him back, behind the typewriter, so to speak. And so we've got our own magazine, blog, newsletter, and our own conference to go along with the radio station and streaming video. And this summer we're going to have lots of panel discussions and roundtables. We're going to do a digital mini conference.
Nice.
If this pandemic gets settled down and figured out, which I don't think it will, I'm sorry, but I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but I just, with an election year coming, I think that, how it's been politicized, I don't think it's going anywhere.
But I do think that being in the New York City area, there's a lot of people across the spectrum that are coming to a place where they're like, you know what, we've got to get thanks, but we're going back to work. It's
I
getting
hope
to
so.
that point. Yeah.
I hope so, because look, I want everyone out there to know, I'm not vaccinated, but I'm not this evil, what they call anti-vaxxer. No. You make the choice and you do what's best for you, right?
So what if it does go back to normal by spring, let's say? Do you have any plans for the station?
We do. We're definitely doing one virtual event. It's going to be a paranormal event, and then we're going to do a UFO event later in the year, probably in the fall. Since the beginning of time, since the beginning of civilization, I'll say, not time, but civilization, there are those who have been put in place to control the populations since day one of them. Day one. Some have been better than others, but we know what works and what doesn't work. And this republic, freedom comes with responsibility, and we have to maintain that responsibility. Because, regardless of aliens coming to save us, we still have to keep these systems we have in place.
Yeah.
We have, it is a network of systems, of hundreds of thousands of systems, and just a few of them go haywire, and it could cause a chain reaction that, would make it very difficult for all of us to get by every day.
Exactly.
And so we need to go back to what Eisenhower said in his farewell address. We need to be an alert and knowledgeable citizenry.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Alan. I love you. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you over here on the X every week. And
yes.
And thanks for having me on Coffee and UFOs. Yes. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And cheers to you all out there. I hope you have another week full of coffee and UFOs on your own. And or sweet tea, whichever works for you. And just so everybody knows, I'm starting a Patreon account. So if you're curious about that, you can go to patreon.com/paranormalpop. All right. Peace and love, everybody. And we'll catch you later.